We usually have a routine of what we do at the beginning of the meeting, and because we like to find out who our new members are. Who's new in here? Okay, I want you guys to stand up and introduce yourself. Tell everything about yourself.
Everything you ever want to know about. My name is Bill Cooper.
Say your name again, he interrupted. Say your name again.
My name is Bill Cooper.
Bill Cooper.
Can you spell Bill for us?
Yeah, I can, but I won't. That's my wife, Joan. She'll tell you about herself in a minute. I got interested in flying back when I was in the Navy. I was a radarman in the Navy, enlisted. I was an NTDS, Air Intercept Controller, and ASAC. Got in on the end of the Vietnam conflict, and I thought that the pilots were getting the better end of the stick, so when I got out of the Navy, I went back to school. I was going to get a degree in professional
I may have to
piloting.
get the disc and put it
The fire
into the
department
main
called me and
computer,
said, "Do you want to go to work for us?"
But I
And
don't
I
even
said,
know
"Yeah,
if
I
it'll
sure do." So I went to work for the fire department.
because it doesn't
Ended up getting my degree in fire science,
log it
stayed with the
off.
fire service, retired as an assistant chief in Denver. And when I retired, we decided, well, maybe we start flying again. So had my license since 77, 77, yes. Had an instrument rating at one time, not current on it, so I just decided, I haven't flown for 15 years until the other day, so I'm here.
Maybe repeat that just in case.
Yeah, welcome. Glad you're here. Joan,
I'm Joan Cooper, and as Bill said, yeah, I was usually the co-pilot and fell asleep the minute he'd take off. So this time it's my turn to fly. I was 42 when I received my commission into the Navy and hit midlife crisis. So I've hit midlife crisis again, so now I'm learning how to fly.
What'd you do in the Navy?
Navy nurse.
Oh, outstanding.
Retired.
Yeah, retired 20 years.
You carry a defibrillator around with you for soldiers?
For me.
Yeah, it's called, you know, but
Oh, Jesus. Sorry, I mentioned it.
He needs help too.
My name is Harry Salaya. Don't ask me where the Harry coming from because it's an old story. I mean, back to the 80s, I finished high school. I joined the military school. I spent from 1983 to 1988 in the Air Force. And unfortunately, I wasn't able to be part of the flying school. I graduated in military intel. I got my training in Fort Benning, Georgia, and also in American School. I mean, I always wanted to fly.
Pulled up
and
this
now I see the
computer,
opportunity to do it.
and it's on one, and this is plugged into two, so.
Great.
My name is Ray Bowers. I'm retired Air Force, 22 years. I was a non-destructive tester, a bunch of different bases, and had my NP license, and I just decided to try the other side of the yoke just
How do you
for
want,
a change.
do you want to duplicate,
Useful guy. Bob. Put it to work. Doesn't need a license, this is Air Force.
okay, anybody else? Okay, nobody else? Nobody else is new. Who hasn't been here for a while? Yeah, I know Malcolm has. Okay, and the other thing we will talk about usually is a little bit of what if anybody has done something new. In other words, in flying, that includes Air Force. Anything that they might have got, like passed their check ride or didn't pass their check ride, or any other things that took place that in your life.
I think I have something that counts.
Kind of figured.
Whoever knows my little kid, Michael, a couple weeks ago he got accepted to Navy flight school.
Oh, wow.
I am so jealous.
Yeah, Michael was in the Aero Club.
Yeah, he was Aero Club
Yes.
member, but turns out college and flying don't mix.
No, they don't. And a girlfriend.
Fiance.
Oh, now? Oh,
Yeah.
wow. All right, congratulations. Wow. Okay, anything else? Yeah.
as of last month, I'm now a T-34 driver.
Okay.
Yay.
Good. Very good. All right. Bill, did you pass a check right or anything, or nothing's happened? When was the last time you flew a C-17?
The MSID last month.
Oh, okay.
My last MSID ever.
Oh, really? Oh, wow.
The mission's gone.
I think the mission's gone.
Yeah, that's it, yeah. Well, so let's see, anybody else that had any fun, anything going on? Any juicy stories to tell? We don't have George Watson in here, so I guess we won't hear too much. George likes to tell those things, you know. Do you have anything? Nothing. Well, now, didn't you just get a Form 5 or something like that in CAP?
That's right.
Yeah, well, that accounts. It's not just only here. It's anything that you do anywhere with aviation. And Scott Schwartz finally got a chance to fly the 182 again after several months.
Well, except for the CAP 182, but yeah.
Yeah. So, okay, if there's nothing else, wow, words. Now, see, that's why we have our own, very own computer guy here. That's
Yay!
yeah,
I tried, sorry.
yeah. I know that's good. Now, if I
He
can
needs
just
to
get
come to the office. He needs help in the office.
okay. It looks like it's frozen up again.
That was not me.
Yeah, I know. It's not. It was doing this with the other one too, and I don't know what's going on. Why it's doing this. It should be clicking right on through. Okay. All right. We got new people. We got new pilot ratings. I think so. Yeah. Experiences. Aero Club manager will be talking to him, or no, he'll be talking to us. Know your OIs / SOPs. That will be explained in a few minutes. Winter flying conditions. That's what we're going to talk about tonight. Okay, Aero Club manager. Make it short.
Give you an update of all the airplanes. 5.6 is flying. 5.3 is still at Flaybob. The engine from Parks is sitting in the hangar. We're just trying to figure out how we're going to get it over to Flaybob. Since the truck needs front brakes, I refuse to put the engine in the back and drive over there. So maybe they'll just come over and pick up the engine for us. And it's going to go on a test stand. They're going to work on the oil pressure for that one. Hopefully they can get it fixed. We think we know where the answer is in regards to the check valve. Contract has been moved to contracting for the engine on 5.7 with further delays. So since April, we're now into November, and we still don't have an engine for 5.7. And the wing is delayed because of the individual's been in the hospital trying to give us a breakdown, and they can't do a contract until they do a breakdown of what kind of work is going to be done on the wing for a 5.55. We don't have an alternator for 5.55, but we're going to take it off the engine we got from Parks and put on 5.55 so we can take and start up and keep the rust out of the cylinders. So it's a continue shift around to make things work temporarily. Hopefully by the first of the year we'll get back down into a more normal form of operation. 15 Foxtrot, 29 Foxtrot are up and running. We did have an electrical problem. Come to find out it was a circuit breaker for 15 Foxtrot. So don't forget, look at your schematics, study your schematics, and just because something's showing a discharge, you want to make sure that the circuit breakers, even though they're kind of hard to find and see if it's popped, but check your circuit breakers to make sure that they are in, because that's part of the system with the T41As and the Charlies. The 182 is up and running very well. Haven't had any issues there. So that's the aircraft issue. As far as the club is concerned, we made $580 last month. So I appreciate all our new students that are helping us keep in the black. Those people who need currency, don't delay. And I'm saying that because if you're just going to fly 1 hour per month, you're not current in my opinion. And if you think you're going to be current by flying once a month, I have news for you. You're not current. There's a lot of things that need to be studied in regards to flying only 1 hour a month. I try and fly more than that. And I was anticipating putting in about an hour on Thursday, and now we're gonna have rain. So unfortunately, it looks like Thursday's schedule is gonna go down the tube temporarily. You'll have to see what happens on Thursday morning. So trying to stay current. And the club, if you know people that want to join the club for any membership, be sure and talk to them and have them call us and have them come out and visit the club. I think we can offer a good product to them at a reasonable price. I want to come back with something with the FAA late. As of yesterday, the AOPA today wrote a reply to the FAA medical. And the FAA surgeon, Dr. Fred Tilton, has notified air medical examiners, the AMEs, which we all see, that they will soon be required to measure the body mass index, a BMI, for all pilots and controllers during their medicals. Anyone with a BMI of 40 or more, which is up about 25 above, which is up to 25 is considered normal for body fat, and with a neck circumference of 17 inches or more will automatically have to be evaluated for OSA, which is obstructive sleep apnea. I find it kind of interesting now that they're saying that this is creating problems and it's causing accidents, but the data hasn't been there to show that it causes accidents. This is what AOPA is trying to do. So anyone who has an OSA and has to get treated successfully before he or she can fly again, because OSA is a disqualifying condition, and this is what the FAA doctor is. But there's no data to this. Anyway, it goes on, and I just want to forewarn you in the future what the FAA is looking at in regards to every pilot. It's almost acting as if they're trying to get rid of people, just like they're trying to get rid of aero clubs, they're trying to get rid of aviation, they're trying to get rid of the 100-octane fuel and give you something else which produces less horsepower and then creates more issues in regards to weight and balance and what you can do with an airplane. So we have a sheet going around for our Christmas dinner. We're going back to Pinnacle Peak. Put your name on it if you think you're going to be there. It's not a guarantee that you're going to be there, but I want to plan on how many seats and tables we need. It's going to be held on Sunday. We'll do cocktails and chit-chat starting at 5 o'clock and then try and order up around 6. And we're going to have some Christmas gifts again and some prizes for the prize. So we'll do the best we can with our limits in regards to how much money we have and what we can finagle and hide. That's just between us. I've already bought a couple of things already out of my own pocket, so but we'll have a good time just like we've always had. Thank you.
Thanks. And actually, it's $508 in the black, not $580. Just thought I'd get that straight. For those of you who pay through credit card for your dues, make sure you pay attention to what happens to your credit card. We had 14 rechecks. This is the highest I've ever seen it since I've been in the club. 14 credit cards rejected for various reasons. Some were either the credit card got stolen or whatever. Others, it was just plain didn't have the money. Those are easy to take care of. I just rerun them again in a couple of days and they go right through again. But there's some that's the expiration date, and or the card gets changed. If that happens, try to remember to let me know about that, because it's kind of frustrating when you sit there in the dues program and 14 rejects come back, and it's kind of like, okay, now what's going on, So that's just a little side note to bring up. Otherwise, we're doing pretty good. One of the things that we've been doing is talking about, besides the Christmas party, we're talking about doing some little things later on in the year. I actually discussed, I don't even know if I discussed it with you yet, but
We never discuss it.
But I know, I don't. I talked to most of the members. I talked to a couple of guys in the Aero Club about doing a possibility of like we do in Civil Air Patrol. Some of you guys who are familiar with it, Civil Air Patrol, there's a night that in our unit that we do a night hawk program where it's on the 5th Tuesday, where it's that 5th night where there's nothing assigned to do anything, so they do a night flight during that time. And we were talking about maybe having a barbecue, and that evening, for those who would like to, with instructors, go up and just do a little bit of night flying with the airplanes. The ones that are the airplanes that can fly at night, of course, which eliminates the T-34, of course. But the T-41C model can do it, the 182 can fly at night. And it'd be kind of neat to just kind of do that, you know, and besides eating for the barbecue, that'd be the fun part, but, and then go up and work in the airplane.
15 Alphas, or 15 Foxtrot.
Yeah, I think 15 Foxtrot.
But 2-9 Foxtrot, the problem, that's another issue. On 2-9 Foxtrot, we can't get it certified because the altimeter and the decoder are all one unit. That unit is not manufactured anymore, but they found that there is a replacement for it, and that replacement is $2,000. $2,000 for an overhauled unit. So what we're trying to do, and I have to wait for the console, is we're going to put in a decoder and a separate altimeter, and then have it certified for its annual check. Right now, we can still fly Day VFR only on 2-9 Foxtrot, and you should notify the tower that you have a transponder that's not certified, and you need clearance out of the TCA. So that's what we're working on for 2-9.
Okay, and if there's any questions, let me get started because we got about 30 minutes left.
Gotta hurry.
And if I can get this, because boy, it's either warming up or it's doing something, but it is like, okay. Effective immediately. The SOPs are no longer called SOPs. Now, we are negotiating this, but somebody up there decided that these things are going to be called operating instructions instead of SOPs. So I thought I'd just kind of let you know that. Bob right now is in the middle of trying to research this. We called Eric Treeland, who's the guy that's in charge of all Aero clubs, and he kind of went, really? You know, I mean, nobody really knows how to address this issue because the SOPs operate under the umbrella of Air Force regulation or Air Force instruction or Air Force manuals, and so the people here on the base are like saying, oh no, you got to call them operating instructions. So, you know, there is kind of a difference between a regulation and an instruction, and so we want to make sure that it's not going to undermine the authority of the SOPs that we know of right now. That's what we're watching out for, and Bob right now is trying to work that issue.
Before the SOP, we had all eyes.
Yeah, was it?
And the thing is that each one had to be identified as a topic.
Yeah.
Well, they didn't want to get that, so they changed it to SOP so it could be under one. Now it's just going back to the way
Yeah,
they're doing
they want to have indexes and all kinds of stuff in the thing.
Yeah.
You know, it's just amazing.
We always called them OIs before, and they were written that way.
Yeah.
I have a full page of it, you know,
Yeah.
what an OI means and what an AFA means and what an AFR means. I got a full page of abbreviations already done on this thing. But I think we found a way of making this work. It's going to be an operating instruction, and it's going to be called FSS, which is the Flight Support Squadron, OI, and then it's going to be SOP-2, which is the second amendment to the SOP. And then underneath that, we've got Aero Club operating procedures. I have it further down stating that the change will reflect that it's an OI, but we're still operating as an SOP. So I think we're going to beat the system.
The authority line was still the same, you know, as far as if it's an operating instruction. You can operate as an instruction.
Yeah, it might be.
Standard operating
And-
procedure.
Yeah.
Standard operating. It's all the same.
Yeah, you know, if it doesn't change anything, there's no problem with it. It's just that we don't want to do anything. I know when I was,
Well, I think the difference
Yeah.
was that you used to run them by topic.
Yeah.
Like recurrency. and then another OI would be on flying safety meetings, and another OI. So what they did, we used to have about 20 operating instructions. So
Yeah.
what they said, so it renewed. So what we did, we called them SOPs, and then took all of them, combined them into one, which I have. So
Yeah.
that was the only difference. That was in about 85, 86,
Okay.
we changed the SOPs.
Yeah,
Except the
So,
230.
in other
Oh,
words,
Bob.
the Big Air Force is involved in a disinformation campaign in order to confuse Aero Club members between SOPs and OIs. That's what I'm getting from this.
Yeah, that's probably true.
The issue is that 232 still talks about SOPs.
Yeah.
So we operate with the 232, we operate with the 217, and then the SOP really is for members within the organization itself. So the club itself operates under the 232 and the 217, but then the SOP is kind of like another essence within that umbrella. So,
All I heard was numbers and letters and human numbers.
yeah, so
Yeah.
anyway, we're gonna make it work.
Yeah.
We're gonna make it work. So it isn't gonna change a whole lot. There'll be a few changes in it, and there'll be a change sheet of what's taken place. We've just taken and expanded a couple areas in regards to reimbursements for fuel and et cetera. And then changed, there's another issue with runway 30 is an overhead 360. It's not incorporated now in the ops plan for the base, so we took that out. And it's just a straight now approach into runway 30 and 12. So you'll read that when we get it published.
Okay, now, anyhow, our present SOPs, which I put up there as an OI, we're now in chapter 6. And what we do here for you new people is that basically we go over the SOPs at the beginning of each of the safety meetings, and we just cover like a paragraph or two, and that's it. So that way you can't say that, well, I didn't read it. Even though you're told in all the instructions you will read it. But just in case, you know, the idea behind this is a reminder. So we're starting chapter 6 right now, and maintenance, operating, and procedures. And basically the bottom line of this paragraph right here is that unlike a C-17, here there is no operational requirements to quick turn an airplane. Okay, so if something happens or you know, we don't cut corners maintenance-wise to get an airplane going. C-17s, yeah, probably. You know, Bill over here, he probably, you know, says, forget about that. We'll go without it, you know. But we can't do that. So ours is just for, it's recreational flying, and I know some of you fly them for business too, but it's, but still, safety is the top of the list for that. And that's the bottom line for this one here. Our mechanic in here, I notice he's not here, usually he is. He does a good job trying to stay on top of this stuff, and believe me, it's not easy, and he does have some help, fortunately, so he's able to do this stuff. Okay, any questions? Okay, I guess I almost have to do this every time. Okay, winter flying. Okay, actually I probably didn't have to convince you today. We do have winters here in California. And there are a lot of airplanes that do crash here in Southern California. The other big thing is we do get icing here, and that's one of the things that does happen. I don't want to scare any of you students, but don't worry, you know, your instructor won't allow you to get in trouble, not yet. So, here in Southern California, we do get icing. It's nothing like it is from back east for you guys who are from back east. Of course, don't try to compare California with what goes on back east. But believe it or not, down here in this valley here, especially during this time of year, we do get things that come darn close to what happens back east in some cases. There are some storms, and a lot of us guys who've lived in Southern California for many years, Bob living down here most of his life, there's been times we've had some heavy-duty storms hit down here. And if you just happen to be out there flying when that happens, you could have a problem. What we're going to talk about here tonight specifically is icing itself, and what to do, how to recognize it, and all that. Icing occurs in flight into areas of visible moisture when temperatures of the aircraft surface is at or below freezing. This is not only for IFR, okay, this is also VFR. For BFR pilots, flights in clouds is prohibited, but that doesn't mean that there is a guarantee that you're going to fly without ice, not getting any ice. And of course, an example, of course, is carburetor icing. And of course, you students should know very well what that is. Even Joan, who doesn't have that many hours. I'm sure that you read it in your book. And of course, Joan, you know a lot about flying anyhow, because you knew a lot before you got here. But most of you, we're all aware of carb ice, especially in the airplanes that we fly. This thing's going to drive me nuts.
Can you use the forward and back arrows on the keyboard?
Nope, it will not work with anything. It will eventually do it if I keep hitting and hitting and hitting it, but it won't. It just won't do it. And so there's something definitely going on. Okay, icing. Two general types: induction, which is the carb icing, as well as an intake icing, and then structural icing, which builds up on the surface of the wings. I'm sure that you guys who have flown for the Air Force and airlines can tell you some pretty good stories, and I got my stories too. We were flying in the 141 over 29 palms at 10,000 feet, which our airplanes can get to too. And now, of course, we were going a little faster than we would in a T-41, but we were up there, and it was a day about like this, but there was not too many clouds at all. We were not in clouds. We were totally in clear air, and all of a sudden, ice just, boom, formed on the wings and on the front windshield on the part that's not heated. And we actually could, and we measured that, we got up there and looked at it, and it went up to, you could actually see it going like this. And it went up to about 4 inches, we estimated, off to the front around the edge of the window. That's also probably out on the wings too. And of course, we descended, and as soon as we descended, everything immediately, of course, broke off. But that's how fast that took place, and that was at 10,000 feet over 29 palms. And like I said, there was no clouds in where we were at all. There were clouds up over here. That's why we were over there, and we were doing a low-level type flying, and we were going around 29 palms to go over to Palmdale, and these mountains up here had clouds, but it just happened that fast. There's 3 different types of ice. There's rime ice, which results from instant freezing of tiny water droplets. Clear ice, which is probably the most dangerous, results from large water droplets flowing over the airplane, i.e. rain. And then you have mixed ice, which is a combination of the both. A couple of videos that I watched on this, most of the instructors that talked about this pretty much say you get both of them, pretty much both rime ice and clear ice. The problem with clear ice, you just can't really see it. It's hard to see it. And the plane might start flying funny. Okay. Okay, that's not what you want to see. That's real ice on a wing, and that's probably a mixture of both of the clear ice and the rime ice. Okay, what happens? Well, you can pretty much figure out you have loss of lift. Can anybody tell me why you get lost of lift? Lost of lift.
You're changing the wing shape.
Yeah, it's changing the wing shape. Yeah, you're not going to get, the air is not going to go over the wings like it's supposed to. Increased drag, that's pretty obvious. Increased weight, and of course loss of control. And down below it says it destroys the smooth flow of air, increasing drag while decreasing the ability of the airfoil to create lift. I just read an article on an airplane just recently. They were, of course, it was one of these guys that had a lot of money, but he was flying a Pilatus with his whole family, No, it wasn't a Pilatus. It was like a Pilatus. It was like an 800 horsepower engine, but it was one of those really nice single engine turboprop airplanes. And he took off, and he was flying in weather, but it was VFR where he was at. And he was talking to ATC, and ATC told him, says, you're going into what has been reported icing. And, well, this airplane is equipped with anti-ice equipment and all this stuff. The guy had like 5,000 flying hours. So, you know, he wasn't, you know, stranger to anything in flying airplanes, but he said, oh, yeah, no, I'll keep going into it. It was funny because in the article, it even said that you could hear the arrogancy in his voice. That's what the ATC guy said. I mean, he came back with this total confidence that, yeah, okay, quit talking to me, I'm just moving on. And about a minute or two, maybe a little longer, the radar started watching this. The airplane was starting to roll because they could catch it on the altimeter, and it was going down. And then all of a sudden, it just went down. And I believe the people that had seen it on the ground, you know, the plane was completely out of control, and of course half the plane was gone. And of course what NTSB came back with on the official report is that the airplane, you know, it rolled to the right and then it rolled to the left and just went down into a spin dive, and until finally the structure of the airplane, the empennage came off first, and one of the wings came off, and it killed his whole family and himself, and went right straight in. And all that was straight, the cause of the accident was, well, besides stupidity of the pilot, was ice, straight ice. That's what did it. The plane just stopped flying. It just fell out of the sky. So it's not something to play around with. We would never probably in our airplanes ever get into that type of situation necessarily. We don't, because, you know, most of us have been trained pretty much in general aviation airplanes that we're going to fly in pretty much fair weather. For those who are IFR rated, which we have a few of them in here, you know, you just know, be aware of the weather that you're flying into if you're going to get into weather. Just don't take it into the icing conditions. Any questions so far? Okay, where's my mouse? Okay, these are just statistics. Basically, they're just breaking down what the total weather accidents in the upper left-hand corner up there. The pie that's over there on the side is icing. Now that pie is then broken down into the one on the next to it, where the leading factors is structural, ground accumulation, and induction icing. Induction icing is that icing from what goes in the air going into the engine. Structural icing is a good slice, but look at the induction icing. We'll talk about just real quick on that in a few minutes. And then the lower left-hand corner, pilot total time is what the average is as far as the pilot's time that they have flown airplanes. And you look at that, and look at that piece that says 1,000, greater than 1,000 hours of flying time. It's interesting that that's a huge chunk there. And then the lower right-hand corner, the aircraft type. And you got the multi-engine, the retract single, and then fixed gear single, which is like our airplanes. Look how big that piece is down there on that. Pretty good size. It's kind of surprising in a lot of ways. Bottom line, how to avoid icing. Get a thorough weather briefing. Especially the IFR guys that's here, but even VFR. It doesn't matter. I mean, you know, I noticed that most of you students do a real good job, and the guys who just got their license come in there and check the weather every time. It's easy to sit there and go out to the Aero Club and look out the window and go, oh, okay, it's great, you know, it looks, you know, fantastic. Well, what are you doing? Are you just going to Lake Matthews and back, or are you planning on going up to Apple Valley? A lot of things can take place, especially during this time of year. while you're at Apple Valley eating at a closed restaurant. I think is this open or closed now? I don't know.
It's closed.
It's still closed, yeah.
I think it is.
But anyhow, coming back over these hills, that's when all of a sudden becomes a big surprise. And there are dozens and dozens, well, more than that, stories of people who went out of this basin here, came back and found a whole different program going on down here. Anywhere from fog, which you can get in the summertime, or thunderstorms up here in these mountains, just about anything that you can run into. The weather here changes pretty fast. And of course there's 1-800 weather brief. Monitor the flight watch, so if you're flying across country, out of the basin especially, but even in the basin, look for those airments and sigments. Those are the things that will tell you if there's icing. Pilot reports. Wow, you know, that's probably the best right there is the pilot reports. Avoid areas of visible moisture. There was a person that I knew who his brother had left Victorville to fly down to Newport Beach, and he took off when there was storms in the area. And because of the storms, he ended up going to San Diego and landing there. But he thought he could make it back up to Newport Beach, so he tried it and disappeared. And they found the airplane crashed. So, you know, don't take any chances. Just get down. Help. What do I do if I am in icy conditions? Get out of it. How do you do that? Very easy. Just like anything. Just turn that airplane around 180 degrees and go back the other way. That includes anything that has to do with weather at all. You start seeing things going south as far as the weather, thunderstorms, any of that kind of stuff. The planes start, you know, shaking you to death. Just turn that thing around and go back the other way. There is story after story after story that I read as a safety officer that if the pilots had just turned around, then we would have never heard about it. They would have gone home and everything would have been fine. It's just incredible how many people will not do that. It's just incredible. Another thing you can do is descend into warmer air if it's possible. If you're up over these mountains up here, you may not be able to. So you got to take in that consideration. Remember where the freezing level is. That's why you look at the weather report. You should be able to know exactly where that freezing level is. Get out of the visible moisture, and of course, like I said, do a 180. Let's see. This was a little something that was interesting. Don't go around the northwest edge of a low-pressure winter storm. The moist air have circled counterclockwise into the cold air and brings that back down. So it can actually get you in big trouble. And that's, of course, where you're going to get your icing. Any questions? Okay, talk to ATC. Do not keep it a secret if you are getting in trouble with icing or anything else. I can't overemphasize that. You got problems with the airplane. You got problems, you know, even if you got smoke in the cockpit, anything. Talk to ATC. Always talk to them. They will gladly try to help you as much as possible. We tend to not talk to ATC. In a lot of ways, it's kind of like, you know, if you're flying IFR, obviously you have to. But if you're flying VFR, we tend to not want to. I have a friend of mine that flies the LA Basin all around Class B airspace and never talks to anybody. Never does. But he knows how to do it too. But he never talks to ATC. There is a way to, without declaring an emergency, to get ATC to know that you're in an urgent situation, and basically use the word immediate. So in other words, if you're in ice or any other situation where you shouldn't be in, just say, I need an immediate descent. And they'll know, and then they'll help you out and get you there. Any questions? Don't wait until the situation deteriorates. Again, that's just like what I said about doing the 180-degree turn too. They can get you to a warmer place, especially if it's an icing situation. And if you need to declare an emergency, then do it. Don't be afraid to do it. You know, I know a lot of people are afraid to do that, and it's because they're afraid they're going to get in trouble, or, oh, well, that was stupid, and all that kind of stuff. But you know what? After you get on the ground, you'll be glad that you at least did something. Of course, you know, it's better than, you know, getting yourself into trouble and wish that you had done so. Okay, carburetor ice. It is possible for the carburetor ice to form even in skies where it's just clear as a bell. The outside temperature, it can be as high as 90 degrees. If the relative humidity is 50% or more, particularly when the engine's at low power. So now you know why you have to pull carb heat when you go in for a landing, and why Jerry hops on it, and you get frustrated with Jerry and stuff. But that's the reason why. Carb ice can ice up at cruise power when flying in clear air in the clouds. Now that mostly pertains, of course, you guys who are IFR, but you can also get it when you're just flying a VFR. I've gotten where the engine started running rough several times when I've been flying from point A to point B. And of course it gives the envelope there, builds up a carburetor, is between 60 and 100% relative humidity and 20 to 70 degrees Fahrenheit. What is the first indication that you might have ice in the carb?
Rough running engine,
Rough running engine,
losing power.
but not everybody has a manifold pressure. Yeah, when your engine starts running, come on, Joan, you should know this.
Yeah, you lose
And
RPMs.
Janelle, you know, you guys should know that too. I know it's been a long time since you've flown, but you should remember this stuff. Yeah, the engine starts running rough, and so what's the first thing you do? You pull that carb heat out. And then most of the time it'll smooth out. Don't do partial carb heat. I know that Jerry buried that in your head. Don't, you know, do all out, all the way. And if you need to, when you're getting a kind of icing, leave it on. The engine may run rougher at that point, but that's because that means that you do have something going on out there. When the engine runs smooth, then go ahead and turn it off. The engine RPM should return to normal. If it drops again, then fly with the carb heat on. Okay, I fly the T-41C and the T-34B. I don't need to worry about carb ice. Well, is that true? Yeah, everybody's asleep. I can't believe it. John, is that true?
No.
No. Yeah. Fuel injection engines have no carburetor, therefore no carburetor ice problem. However, when the conditions are favorable for structural ice, fuel-injected engines can lose power and even fail if the air filter and intake passages are blocked by ice. At the first sign of any kind of ice, you activate what FAA calls activates the alternate induction air doors. What does the T-34B have? It's the same thing, isn't it? Have an alternate air, and it's down on the lower left-hand side, down at the, you know, it's a little lever that you pull, and that brings hot air in over the fuel control, because the air is entering down underneath, okay, and it comes up and it's cold air. In the C model, T-41C model, you don't have anything like that, but the air enters on top of the engine.
Didn't I read in the T41C manual that if you have this problem with the ice over the intake, that there's another door that opens automatically?
There is, yes, I believe there is. And I'm not real, because I tried to find that today, and I could not find it. I know there's no way you can do it manually. There is supposed to be an automatic deal that does that, but I'm not absolutely sure, and Fred might know that more than I do. Did you hear that?
There is.
Yeah. Yeah, I know that there is also, of course, obviously the cabin air door, which opens up on the side. But yeah, it's possible, and in that situation, you know, of course, obviously there's nothing you can do about it. In the T34, though, you can. That you actually have to pull the lever in order to bypass it. Any other questions on this? Okay, there are many other icings that take place, and for those that fly IFR, especially, you got tailplane icing, which basically is on the tail, and a lot of the airplanes, you know, the bigger ones have a system back there that's anti-icing for the tail. There's been several commercial small airplanes that have crashed because of tailplane icing. It's kind of one of those things where the airplane, you know, it keeps the nose, you know, from going down, and if you get icing back there and the tail stops flying, then the airplane's going to tend to want to nose down. And I can't remember what that airplane was, the one, it was the twin engine one.
There's an amazing video on this. It's NASA tailplane icing. Look it up on YouTube.
Yeah.
Really good video.
It's a fascinating thing. The chances of it happening in our airplanes is pretty small, especially where we fly them. But it's something to be aware of. For further reading for VFR and IFR pilots, the AOP Air Safety Foundation, FAA.gov, aircraft icing, it's a advisory circular 91-74A. That's where a lot of this information came. And of course, Aviation Safety Magazine. There's many other places too. And just like what Ken was saying, there's some YouTube videos that you can watch. All you do is just Google, you know, YouTube aviation or something like that, and specifically what you're looking for. It's amazing just what you can find up there. Just in one video will cover everything I just took care of in whatever, how many minutes it took me. Oh, I'm still under 8, so it's been only 28 minutes. Okay, any questions so far? Bill, you have anything to add or subtract?
No, it's just curious of how do you share the unusual events of your club with your pilots? Like, for example, that Lost.com incident that we talked about. Does everybody in the club hear about those kind of things and learn from the experience of other people?
Yeah. We usually will put them in a read file, usually. The problem is that we only get it from here. And somehow, someplace, you know, a few years back, we kind of got dropped out of the Air Force version of this thing. We used to get, you know, when crashes took place at other aero clubs or something like that, or Air Force crashes, anything. We used to get that stuff, and then all of a sudden, nothing. And so I get nothing anymore.
Well, I think that in this form right here, it'd be good to discuss some things. I'm not sure if the pilot is here. That'd be a perfect opportunity for the guy to stand up and say,
Yeah.
hey, this is what
Oh,
happened
we've
to
done
me.
that. Oh, yeah, we've done that. We've done that just about every time, as a matter of fact. Anytime somebody gets into some kind of occurrence, yeah.
I can share what happened.
Okay.
Me and John Law were on a long cross country. I was actually part of the flight he was talking about. We took 15 Foxtrot over to Van Nuys, flew over the special flight rules area over LAX, and on our way back, we got to approximately Lake Matthews area. When I noticed that the comms were getting low, I could hear ATC was getting like someone was turning down the volume, and then all of a sudden the panel went out. I was talking to the SoCal approach, so I wasn't on tower frequency, and even if I was, I couldn't transmit. So immediately I squawked 7600 and then proceeded to march Air Force Base like I normally would. And John reminded me that the proper entrance for a lost comm is through the east. So we circled around the north of the base and then entered in the pattern from the east. And we were met by security forces. And yeah, I guess it was due to
Yeah.
electrical panel issue.
Well, they were, oh yeah, as far as the airplane's concerned, yeah, that was the one, that was,
They thought it was the alternator. They found the circuit breaker popped on it. We haven't figured out why, because it hasn't happened since. So
Yeah.
there's a circuit breaker between the alternator, regulator, and the bus. And that circuit breaker sits on the panel. You don't notice it because it didn't pop out very far. So if you would have just kind of looked at, remembered when I mentioned earlier, checking the schematics of the airplane and realizing where there's certain circuit breakers that if you lose power, check those items.
You can reach it
We
from the car.
looked at the circuit breakers and we checked most. I didn't see the one that was popped out halfway, but we saw the diameter was showing negative, so we just assumed that it was the alternator.
Did you look for clearance from tower to land? Green,
We couldn't see the light guns at all. I looked. I was watching them, and John had his little handheld.
You
It
can't,
works,
you
but-
can't see that light up there, Bill. We've had the T-34 had an issue also. They said they shined the light, you don't see it.
Okay. The windows are just pitch black.
Well, just as a point, I try for every student to get them a green light at one time or another on the ground. And half the time we can't see it, it's kind of like a flashing light going by.
Yeah,
Yeah.
about a month
Even-
ago, we were out there
yeah.
and the guy said, what if you don't have a radio? In fact, my headset was going bad, my battery and my noise attenuating headset, and it's not the type that works after the battery goes dead. So the guy says, what are you gonna do if your headset's not working when you get back? My back's here at a regular headset. And I said, well, we'll watch for green light from the tower and all that. So after we landed, he said, well, what's it look like? So I called the tower and I said, look at, would you guys mind shining the green light at us so we can see what it looks like you're talking about? And, I mean, after him trying to beam us, maybe for 30 seconds, we finally saw one little faint green flash. It's very hard to see. And to sit there and just stare at the tower like that while you're trying to fly the airplane is probably not a good, efficient way to use your attention when you're trying to land. So,
I'll look into that.
Well,
Murphy.
what you might note is that light gun that you use in the tower, because I worked in that thing for 20 years, that light gun, it all depends on how well the guys aim it. If they have no training in it, you've got to measure from the front to the back that far, and you're trying to take a solid narrow beam and hit a moving target 3 miles away. If you don't train for that, and I've used light guns and I've saw them for years. It depends on the person. You're absolutely right that is aiming that light gun. If he's not talented, you're not going to see it. I don't care day, night. But one of the problems that most people aren't aware of, you get a steady green to land. That's what you do. If that guy hasn't got you nailed, you're going to get a flashing green because he's moving. If he moves 1/16 of an inch, it moves about 100 yards out there at the end, how far you are away. So that's one of the things you have to be careful of the light.
Yeah,
It's
Murphy,
really an emergency
Murphy,
thing.
who's one of the tower guys, he's at the club here too, and he even admitted, he says, yeah, sometimes it's very difficult to do it.
Well, they don't get to use it either. Remember that.
Yeah.
Those tower controllers probably up there probably never have ever used that light gun a real reason. So if you don't train on it, the guys are not going to do it. It's really a point of training.
what's a good, I guess, that we give them more training by asking them to practice by
Exactly.
doing
Yeah.
You're absolutely correct.
That would be a good, yeah,
Here's-
that would be.
You already heard part of my baby war story then. Does anyone else use those quiet comfort things with the U-Fly mic that basically all the Southwest guys use? It's not really an aviation headset, and in order to get it TSO'd for use for aviation, you're actually supposed to wear earbuds that plug into the bottom of that U-Fly mic thing there, but 90% of the guys don't do it. My lesson learned is I'm gonna always have the set of earbuds hooked up now in case. Well, what I found is in the T-34, it drains my battery a lot faster because the headset has to work harder to attenuate the noise. So my battery was good when we took off, but I wore it out during the flight because it was working so hard to try and cut down the
We
noise.
do sell headsets.
Yeah.
The one thing you might
This
want
is
to
a
point out, when you
$650
ask for a
rig.
test
That's a
from
problem.
the tower, ask them to show you a white light, not a green.
Oh.
Green, if someone else hits it,
Yeah.
once they're cleared to do, so always
Yeah.
ask for a white light. And that way, it's always returned to starting point, no matter where you get it, who gets it,
Yeah.
it's gonna be the proper one.
Yeah.
That's the safest one you can ask for.
Yeah.
Don't ask for a red one or green one, because those have control
Yeah.
instructions.
One of these days, we're gonna try to see if, especially when the new tower opens up, I'm gonna talk to Murph and see if we can't have a tour up there on one of these nights. Yeah, Doc?
Yeah, I think last time someone mentioned using plain old cell phones when the radios fail.
They did.
We
Yeah.
tried to call from the plane, couldn't hear anything. Well, we called immediately when we landed, face-offs, to let them know that we just had a lost comm and that we're okay.
Or you weren't able to get them in flight.
I think John tried. I was at the controls. I don't think he could hear anything.
Did you guys carry a handheld radio with you?
He did, but I guess the battery was dead.
Yeah.
And the range is very limited even when the battery is good on those things. So.
Okay. Anybody
Can
else?
I just bring up, I flew with John the next day, and I asked him about that. He said that he tried the handheld, and the battery wasn't dead. He said he tried, but he couldn't get out. He held it up into the windshield and held it all around, but he couldn't get any.
Did you say how far away from the tower he was? Because they have pretty limited range.
Yeah, he
We were
didn't say.
right over the north end.
Usually got about a 5 mile range.
I believe so.
It's line of sight.
We were more than a mile and a half.
Well, it's line of sight when you're about a mile or two away. You can't do it from behind a building. You have to be able to see them. Line of sight, yes.
Yeah.
But the wattage output on those transmitters is not like the radio in the airplane.
Well, they're 5 watts. They're the same as an airplane.
What if the battery's
Yeah,
very low?
No. They're all regulated by FCC. Your airborne radios put out 5 watts. Handhelds put out 5 watts. Your ground station is the only one allowed to have more than that, and the ground station is limited to 15 watts.
All I know is with my handheld radio, I can stand there looking at the tower from the Aero Club, and when it was brand new, fully charged battery, they can barely hear me. I can hear them fine.
That's right, that happened to me, I tested.
It could be outside noise or something.
Yeah, but
Or it could be their antenna location.
Yeah.
That's the key to
Because,
me,
for
Brad.
example,
Their antenna's not on the tower.
Well, take any handheld radio and go do that. Like when we did the flyby at the cemetery, we couldn't hear our ground guy, David G.
He's on the ground.
Yet I've used mine, an A26, and I could talk to Ball, who was 4 miles away.
Yeah.
And that's when we buried Tim Spiller.
I had a little handheld I used with my biplane, and that's the only thing I had. I had it plugged into an outside antenna, and I used it for 10 years. And I could get guy 15 miles away, but it was the antenna, not so much the power. So if you have an antenna, you're going to get a little bit better range. It all depends on the length of the antenna.
See, most people think,
Don't have any gain.
but most people think that an antenna is like a drop of water in a pond and it radiates out equally. An antenna loads. It may be like a 4-leaf clover. It may be like a 5-leaf clover. It may be only a 2-leaf clover. It all depends on what the lobing is for the antenna. And this is one of the problems even aboard ship.
Yeah.
You can't depict it unless you take and draw the graph on it. So it's not universal.
But with my radio, I might fly right next to the tower on downwind, talk to him when I'm there, not when I'm out at Joe Bob, you know? I'll try and call him a Joe Bob, and I'll listen, but
Well, I know when you're trying to use a handheld in an airplane, speaking into that speaker, you pick up every bit of noise inside that airplane, and usually you just come through garbled as hell from a ground station. Now, if you have the ability to plug it into your headset, it's going to clear up, and you're going to be able to hear. A lot of people do that. They'll modify their headset with a separate jack, and it goes into
They sell the jack.
You don't have to modify, you can buy the.
well, mine came with it. It's got.
Well, a lot of them do, and then when you do that, normally you pick up a lot of clarity if you do that.
I can tell you that it's predominantly an antenna, because we have airplanes in Cap that have got a little antenna down the
Yeah.
bottom we can plug into, and I can get 30, 40 miles with a handheld, no problem at all. I haven't tried it much further than that. You know, I'm at altitude 5,000 feet maybe.
Yeah.
But if you know where the antenna is on the ground, you know, you're hitting it. And we've tried those as far as we could go.
You're right.
And it works great. So it's really the antenna, and you're in a Faraday cage kind of in that airplane. You gotta find a way to get, open the window maybe, it's kind of, it just, but the handheld is great if you can get
Okay.
an antenna to it.
Yeah.
Why don't we go ahead and, let's see.
Go home.
Yeah, almost. There was one other thing on here. This is driving me. I can't believe it. Well, now I can't even get the mouse to come up.
Yeah, it just moved. It's the ball.
You can? Where?
That means the meeting's
Oh,
over.
it's right there. Okay, I couldn't see it. Okay, Christmas dinner. Pinnacle Peak Steakhouse, 15 December. Let Bob know, or I, if you're gonna go. And then there's the instructions down below. For those of you who have GPS, you can just plug in the address.
You'll probably go past 7 o'clock, maybe 8.
Yeah, I just put on there 7 o'clock, but you notice in the Z hours, I got 2,000 hours, so. But I don't know how many of you people understand that. I know Joan does, but there are some people in here that are straight civilian. Okay, so if there's no questions, see if I can get this thing to move. It tells you when the next meeting is. Next meeting. Christmas goes late, so just like Thanksgiving goes late, so we'll have it on a regular third Tuesday. And
I have a standards meeting in December. Just kind of stick on the calendar. So we'll do a standards meeting on Tuesday the 17th. We'll make it quick.
okay, that's enough unless you got questions.